morning. We thought a small gathering would suit my father. He wasn't one for a lot of crowds and big crowds. We are going to start with a poem by Richard Wright. I think Tracy and I will read it. My father specifically requested this after reading the book The Warmth of Other Suns, about the migration of African Americans leaving the Jim Crow South. He felt very moved by this poem, as he felt Jim Crow South wasn't good for anyone. We have the copy of the book that he's actually circled the poem, and that's what we'll read from. And yeah, so we'll start. Hold on a second. All right, it was. Okay, you want to read?
Sure.
Say
I was leaving the South to fling myself into the unknown. I was taking a part of the South to transplant an alien soil, to see if it could grow differently, if it could drink of new and cool rains, bend in strange winds, respond to the warmth of other suns, and perhaps to bloom. Richard Wright. I hope that was loud.
So we have the Spiritual Wisdom of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center in Watertown will be coming up to speak, and then we'll have a personal reading from Eric Terrell, from his father, my uncle, Bill Terrell. And then everybody is welcome to share a memory or a story of John, and we will do the Internment of Ashes and a closing by Shawn. So we'll have you come up and have you introduce. I'm happily.
So John, I think everybody knows him, knows he was a seeker. He was somebody who just always asked questions and always explored and wanted to learn new things, whatever his interests were, he pursued them. He never actually, I recall, declared himself to be one religion or another religion, but he explored a lot of religions and a lot of perspectives. And towards, I think, towards the later part of his life, he explored Raja Yoga, and spent a great deal of time at the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center, and even was considering going to India with Dave, who was the director, with Dave to get really deep into the meditation practice. Of course, the health then got in the way of doing that, but I remembered, he went to this place. What is this place? It was a meditation. It says Watertown, I think. And so we found it, and Dave was really gracious, and we talked a lot. And he couldn't make it himself to here, but Zvika and Gloria Rodriguez are here to talk about the center. I don't know if you knew him at all or had met him.
I did.
Oh, okay, Zvika, thank you. And just talk a little about it. I sent you guys I sent Dave the copy of the memoir, so I don't know if you saw that, but it's interesting stuff in there. I thought we'll be reading from some of that later. But without further ado, I'll let you guys just go have at it. Thank you for coming. We really feel lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Zvika, and it's really my honor to be here with you today. I met John actually when he was coming to learn more about the knowledge of the Raja Yoga from the Brahma Kumaris, and I was the one who was fortunate enough to basically give him the introduction lessons in the meditation, just like I got it. I was sharing with him in a few lessons in the evenings, and my colleague Gloria is going to tell you more about the philosophy and the wisdom and the meditation and the knowledge behind it. But my role, at least today, they've asked me, is just to share a little bit from my experience that I had with him. And I really didn't know John too much in terms of like what he's doing. It's more like he was coming to listen, and I was the one who was speaking and sharing. But I think in every meeting, when two beings, two souls meet, you get to know things and recognize things, and there's always an impression that's left on you, something that touches you. And in this way, you know, just from the vibrations that are coming from the being, the soul, I remember John as someone who touched me just by his smile, his sweet smile. There was something that was transferring through that. He was very soft and very humble and had this sweet smile, and that touched me. But on the other hand, I got a sense that he's an authority, like a scientist. Again, I don't know the details, I don't know his life, but it did strike me, his humility, his softness, while kind of feeling that he knows a lot. And you said that he was a seeker, and I definitely felt that, you know, he wanted to go to the depth and understand. And one of the other things that really kind of came across was that he knew that there's something deeper, something spiritual. Again, I'm guessing that's beyond the science. He did mention to me about the universal principle of love, you know, that he wanted, like he recognized, more like a spiritual love, more like a pure love, more like an unconditional love. So he kind of knew that maybe science can tell us a lot of things about how things are, but when it comes to how we use those things and the ethics behind those things, science doesn't tell us. It's just like objectively, this is what's there, these are the data. And that's where I felt that you know, even though he's coming to learn, but he does recognize something about spirituality, about love, about the truth, if you will. So that was my experience. I thought he had a lot of courage to actually, as you said, you know, he didn't declare himself as any religion, but wanted to explore. And I think that's courage, that's strength. So that's what's left with me, and I'll remember that smile, that humility, that softness, and courage. So now I'll let Sister Gloria take it up from here and share with you a little bit about the wisdom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hello, and I don't know if it's yet. I think it's still good morning to everyone. And I'm so happy to have you all here, or that you have invited me actually to be here. And first of all, I want to give my condolences to everyone for the pass of John, a very special personality. And my name is Gloria. And just to tell you a little bit about, our background. I was born in Mexico, but pretty much living in the U.S. for a long, long time. And I traveled for a little bit, especially India. But my colleague, his name is Zvika, and his background is Israel. Because, it's always better to understand more and to feel more at ease, right? See who's speaking in front of you. I came across this knowledge in 1985 as spiritual knowledge in Boston. And I had this mission. It was very small place, somewhere in between BU and BC and Commonwealth Avenue. So that pulled me because I said, oh, I think this is what I want, because just as he mentioned, something to do with universal love. I felt personally that in many places where I was not welcome, and I felt that my life needed something more than that. So when I reached that place, I already felt welcome. And then inquiring more, it felt that I understood after a few times visiting that place that this is a place where anyone in the world can come, no matter what it is, like what background it is, what creed, what race, everyone is welcome. And why is that? Because this study of Raj Yoga is started in India in 1937, a long time ago, and I will not go to all the history because it will be a long time and we have just a few minutes. So when I went, I fell in love when I landed in India. You know how India is probably superficially, but when you land there, if you have not visited, it's just like something just embraces you, and that is love. It's amazing because there are problems too, but I felt in that way, and I felt very emotional because I reached my land. It was really, really something special. And then going to the rest, right? The headquarters. And this place has spread, this knowledge has spread all over the world. There are few centers in each country, like each country. And this makes me very happy because before I came to this knowledge, I was unhappy. I already mentioned why, but on the other hand, I wanted to help the whole world. And I felt handicapped. How can I help the whole world? Even if I do this, even if I would waste my time thinking how to help, but there was nothing that could help me to understand how to help. So when I got here, then I understood that in fact, each one of us, each human being is very special. And each one of us is incognito. Someone that you cannot see. You might see the body, but in reality, you cannot see the real being. Like I'm sure you did not see when John left. Perhaps you saw some signs in the body, but the being is incognito. And we call it that the spirit. And there are many traditions and many confusions everywhere. But for me, it became very clear that this being who's standing here has two things, soul and body. The spiritual being is incognito and is sitting behind the eyes in the center of the forehead. But when this being leaves the body would just collapse. And you can burn it, you can cut it, you can do anything with it. It's made of matter. So the spirit and the body are two separate things. And very clear it became to me. And so I had experiences after that, because there is the component of the meditation, and we can possibly take a moment of silence in a few moments after I speak. So I kept going studying, and of course it's not overnight. So what is the study about? To remember that every moment can be my last moment right here. To remember that I am just a traveler. I'm going to move away in a short while. We don't know when. We don't have a date. It just comes when time comes. And so what we practice, a vision of brotherhood, a vision that we all are incognito beings inside the body. And the closest to that being, when you look at the eyes of someone very closely, there is where you can feel more the spiritual being. And many times it's hard for people to look at your eyes because of that. It's as if someone is going inside you No, it's just seeing you a little bit closer. And secondly, what gave me so much happiness to know that there is someone out there helping us. Because I thought, what's the use to be in this world? Helpless human beings. So when I understood, yes, we can do a lot. We can build buildings, we can build cars, we can build anything we want to build, right? But for that requires energy, power too. So when I knew that my parent is not another physical being, yes, temporarily, physically, there are parents of the children to give support until I'm grown. After 18 years old, I'm responsible, 100%. So what am I going to do? So as I saw the world, I felt like the whole world was like an orphan. And so I would go to bed crying every night. So when I came here then, I began to understand more and more and practice. The main thing was practice. I'm not this physical body. Anything that is physical is going to betray you. It's going to leave you. It's going to let you down. But everything that is non-physical, that is spirituality, spirit inside this body, is what is permanent. It never dies actually. Just leaves one body and takes another one, or moves on to the next role. We play roles. We need this body to play roles and to enjoy life. But in fact, we don't belong to this place. We own nothing. We are spiritual beings, we're travelers, and we enjoy in the whole world. Tomorrow you might be in South India. Tomorrow you might be in Australia. Tomorrow you might be in Russia and China, just like me. So we fly and we enjoy. So these are what the physical sense organs and what the body is. But in fact, who's our parent then? Are we just like birds flying stars? We are spiritual beings that belong to one unlimited parent. The parent that has equal vision, that all are my children. All are spiritual beings and all need help one point or another. Maybe not at the same time. Because we all are actors in this world. And so my parent is my father and my mother is the supreme actor. So all the needs that we need are expressed in this world. In fact, they belong to the spiritual being. So what is it, if we ask you, what is it that the ultimate thing that you want in life, what would you say? Ultimate thing that you want in life, what would it be?
Happiness.
Happiness.
Peace.
Traveling.
Peace. Traveling.
I love traveling.
Yes. Good. Well, there was and what did you say?
Climbing trees.
Oh, that you can do.
I love climbing trees.
Well, you can. So there was a, survey somewhere. So the most people answer happiness. The ultimate thing, I want to be ever happy. So if you find out why you want to go to school, then what it would be the answer? Because I want to have a degree. Why do you want to have a degree? You want to earn more money. Why do you want to earn more money? And you keep on and on and on like that. So ultimately, you're chasing after happiness. Peace and happiness. So to find out that the inner qualities of the spiritual being, the soul, is love, peace, happiness, bliss, purity, power, everything you want, this belongs to the soul. But why we don't feel it? You might ask, but why I'm not feeling it? What's wrong? Well, how many hours a day would you dedicate to experiment, to explore, give space to your spirit to express what is inside? How many hours? Probably very little. I'll tell you from my experience, very little. And this is the meditation center, what it does. When you go there, give 1 hour to the exploration of what you have inside, not what you have outside. But we're chasing outside because it looks like it, I'm almost get it. I get it. I get it. And we're running, different places, different jobs, different everything. So a little time for yourself, a little time to look inwards. Everyone has this opportunity. Everyone, every soul is made of knowledge, power, peace, happiness, love, bliss. And so that's why the great spiritual renunciates, those who sit in caves somewhere or who look very spiritual and very experienced in that, they are given so much respect because this is something great that everyone can achieve. But who is going to give the time? The one who's going to achieve it is the one who's going to give the time. Give time to yourself. And so this is the foundation of the Meditation Center, that we want to help ourselves and we want to help others to come close and try it out, because it's inside you. It's inside each one of us. And that's the one who's going to be more happier, the one who gives more time to yourself internally. Oh, sorry, what is the time? 1 minute? One more minute? Okay. So, in overall, I would say I invite you to come and visit the center. I will give you a little, I want to share a little blessing with each one of you, because this is just few words. It's a lot to learn. And so the parent is always with you as long as you give time to you and to the parent. Just give time. It's a wonderful ocean of love, a being that is unlimited, unlimited. And so the vision of brotherhood. So if you ever have a little problem, don't focus on the problem. Focus on love. Focus on what the soul is. So raise your eyes above and connect to your true self. Connect to the parent, which is also a supreme soul. And that way you might find the solution easily. But not to focus on the problem. It's kind of like saying you're wasting your time. You don't find the solution when you think over and over and over again, but when you give time to yourself and you step away, then the answer comes and then you solve the problem. So let's take a moment of silence and just a short moment to go inside yourself. I focus my attention internally. I go inwards. I forget about the body, everything from outside. I move inwards. I visualize my inner self as a strong, imperishable, immortal, filled with peace, love, happiness, bliss. And as I see myself as a spiritual being, I see others. My family. Children of the incorporeal, eternal, supreme being, supreme parent. Merciful ocean of love. peaceful day.
Om Shanti.
Thank you. So I will pass on these blessings to each one of you. Enjoy the flavor. It's like a blessing, like something that is within you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Zvika and Gloria, thank you for coming. You're of course welcome. We'll have a reception afterwards at Barrel Farm, and if you're welcome to come if you have time.
Yeah,
Join.
we will have to leave, but we will have to stay until the end.
Oh, thank you. Please, yes. Okay, great. So Eric Terrell, John's nephew, my cousin, is going to read a few things from John's brother, Bill, who is on the other side of that Zoom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, thank you, Shawn. Wow, what a enlightening message that was on such a beautiful day. That was, it actually shed a lot of light on Uncle John, who we didn't get to see a lot of, but you know, I feel like I know him better now. So thanks for doing that. So like Shawn said, I'm Eric Terrell. I'm with the other Terrell cousins, with my sisters Jan and Lynn. We're here. Our dad Bill, who's back home, was John's brother, and he wrote a few words here a couple days ago. So I'm just going to read them right now. Memories of John H. Terrell, my brother. John was 4 years older than I. We grew up in Magnolia, Arkansas, and attended all school days from grammar school through high school in the same building. A new junior high school was built that only I attended for the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade levels. Both John and I worked at Dad's auto garage when needed. Dirty hands and some heavy lifting was required. John was at the local college at least 1 year, and then on to University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where he graduated with a physics major. He received a Fulbright scholarship in physics at Marburg University in Germany. While there during the Hungarian Revolution, he borrowed a car and drove into Hungary to rescue and bring out people to Germany. I do believe he enjoyed his stay in Germany. Upon return to USA, he sought employment and went to Boston. I remember in the early 60s driving my very old Volkswagen to Boston from Columbus, Ohio. Not sure if it was going to make the trip. Thankfully, it made the round trip safely. Julie and I again made the trip in 64 and 65 for John's graduation. My parents drove from Arkansas to Ohio to make the trip to Boston with us. It was the first time our folks met Mary and the 3 children. In the early 70s, Julie and I and Jen and Eric made several trips to Boston, visiting Cape Cod and touring the Boston area. Fun trips. I can second that. Those were great times, especially Thanksgivings. In 1991, Lynn had international students visiting from Luxembourg. John and Mary invited us to visit in Boston, again touring the area and visiting Harvard. Students loved that visit. My last visit with John was in 2008 when John flew to Wilmington for my surprise 70th birthday. I remember Eric, Jen, and Lynn enjoying the stories John told of his trip to Europe and other moments of his life. It was a very enjoyable weekend. Only problem, John was dressed for northern climate. In October, Wilmington is still in the 80s. A brilliant mind with a wonderful personality.
So nice.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric. Okay. Well, here we are. So what we thought we'd do is, a couple of us wanted to read a few things out of John's memoir. He wrote a memoir. We call it JT, by the way. So if I say JT, that's the same. First we're going to start with Julia. Who's John's granddaughter.
Hi everybody. I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from his memoir. I'll start. I began to miss being away from home and wanted to continue my work in the USA, whatever it would be. A telegram from Mama in Magnolia quickly brought me back to reality. Complaining that she and Pop hadn't heard from me in several months, she was ready to contact the U.S. State Department and the FBI if I didn't write in 2 weeks. I wrote back immediately to apologize for my long silence. I began to understand what a life doing physics, mostly I thought about teaching, would mean for me. Also, I learned that my interests were much broader than I had imagined. Doing physics, I believed, seemed to propel one's mind into other areas of the inquiry that were equally interesting and challenging. I chose that because I thought it was a little bit more lighthearted. He always had a good sense of humor, and it just kind of discussed his physics journey and all of that. So.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to read something too.
Yes, I'll hold this.
Thank
for
you.
you.
All right. Yeah, we got some sticky notes here. So, I read through this a couple of times. When he first sent it out to everybody, it was like 2008, and you kind of look through it. It looks, but he's still there, so you can just talk to him instead of reading the thing so carefully. And he was great at telling stories. So we heard most of the stories, but of course now it has much more meaning. So John, as I mentioned, I think he was a seeker, and I looked that up this morning because I wasn't sure if that was the right term. I looked up the Jungian, definition of a seeker, and the Jungian definition of the archetype of a seeker is it's not seeking for stuff out there; it's for seeking internal searching. You to find yourself. And so I'll just read you, I think, what kind of triggered that for me, thing out of the memoir when he was a kid. So it was mostly Mama's voice I remember during my childhood. What she read to me was especially meaningful. Many Bible stories, John Milton, Grimm's fairy tales, and her favorite poems are examples. Our house was near both the public schools I attended in Magnolia. Each school day I walked to school, came home for lunch, walked back to school, and then after school walked to Pop's garage or the Baptist church. And he worked at the Eric mentioned, they both worked in their father's Model A repair shop after school. But Mama's goodbye always ended with the phrase, "Remember who you are." And when I asked what that meant, she would quote a scripture whose meaning I never understood. Did I need to dig deep? Did I need a deeper spiritual insight? John asked. And it was soon clear I'd have to figure this out by myself. So that was early on. But I also mentioned that his father was a Methodist and his mother was a Baptist, and they went to separate churches, which was, I think at the time, a little bit sort of like curious what that meant, and it's sort of the sort of experiences that he had growing up, I think, led him into the space of what does this all mean, and how can I find out? And I think that I'll give an example going pretty far ahead in time. He went to Kyoto, Japan for a walking tour. He brought some of us with him, and he we went and did all these Zen temples, and it was really amazing stuff. And he saw exhibits of Japanese brush painting, sumie, and it made a significant impression. And he knew he had to find a teacher when he got home. So that's the next piece of a long journey, right? And so he found a Zen student of sumie called Jan, I think is how you pronounce it, Jan Zaremba, and he studied with him for about 3 years. And he just found like a new way of thinking about nature. Now remember, when he did physics, it wasn't physics just for the science, it was physics to understand who he is and how all these pieces that we see, just science and spirituality are connected. He saw it all as kind of one thing in a way, And so sumie requires that a painter accept a boundary within which the art is to be performed. One of my tasks was to paint a moonlit night above a mountain range, from which the moon's rays fell upon a smooth pond, illuminating a flute player sitting in a boat. I was having trouble conveying darkness on each side of the moon's rays. My strokes appeared like the banks of a river, not a gradient in shadows. I was attempting to subtly define the boundaries of the darker regions based upon a Chinese-inspired technique called holistic brushstroke. My teacher, Jan, cautioned me about the limitations of the craft. He cautioned that one must compromise with discipline, honoring its tenets, rethinking the aim and intent of the idea of the scene. I started over, and with a new resolve to paint the scene I had in mind. At last, I was happier with the scene, but not with the kind of satisfaction I had hoped for. Now I could move on to another task. An insight emerged. Artistic boundaries can enable the artist to achieve poignancy and efficiency, unattainable without it. So the reality of boundaries in our lives as a space to explore and to go deeper into what we're doing. And so I think this epitomizes so much about what he did. I'll just read one more quick paragraph from his sort of, he's coming out this time, I think he's coming out of undergraduate. So he's wrapping up his Fulbright scholarship, so it's actually the two paragraphs after what Julia read, yeah. And he's thinking, what am I going to do next, right? And so, this is going on. What it would take personally to succeed in achieving something truly creative in physics was becoming clearer. With a certain amount of effort, it might be done, but there would be a personal cost. Had I been really dedicated and super smart, which I think he was super smart, but whatever, these concerns might never have occurred to me. I knew several very smart physics students, and their goals and plans were much better defined than mine. They were purpose-driven to a very high degree. But for many, their lives were tightly circumscribed as they pursued their goals. Instead, I was moving toward a generalist approach to understanding nature, which he would always say, what's physics? He says, it's understanding nature. He would tell us that when we were kids. I never really understood that. I get it a little more now, I think. But like Goethe's science, the German poet, science that aimed to consolidate knowledge rather than try to peel it off in layers. I recognized that basically I was a many-sided person and that my several areas of interest should be honored and explored. I was not in any particular hurry. So this is just pieces of his life that wrap up into a thing that just says, I'm just going to keep going. And he went to the Kumaris Center, and he may have kept going beyond you guys, I don't know. But he certainly found a home there for a while. Thank you. Okay, so now it's the remembrances. So yeah, this is open floor. So anybody wants to say anything that you remember, we'll pass around the phone and stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Gus Brown. Circumstances notwithstanding, it is so nice to be among Terrells on this summer day outside under the tree. Because the last time that happened with so many Terrells outside under a tree was the 4th of July, maybe 15 years ago. as John would have said, all y'all were at a long table. I paid attention. All y'all were under a long table in the shade of the large silver maple in our backyard. Mary, I think, Lisa, you picked up Mary and you brought her, and we just had a nice gathering. Allison, you and Luis were there as well. So it's nice to be with you all. Again, I wish under different circumstances, but this is it. Lorraine and I, John and Mary, I guess starting in the mid-'80s, so it's 15 women, 25. Going on 30 years. We hiked together, we cross-country skied together, we went horseback riding on a deer ranch in Arizona together. We did a lot. And John was, Shawn, as you just said, a many-sided person. There were many facets of John. One of them was his persistence, which I think you can all recognize, having grown up in Magnolia, where I remember the first line of the school song is, "Welcome to Magnolia, where the folks all know ya." I'm not quite sure how much of a stretch that rhyme is, but John taught it to us to go from Magnolia to Marburg on a Fulbright scholarship, as we heard, also getting his doctorate. John just did a lot. When he set his mind to something, he did it, almost no matter what. So it was maybe 25 years ago. We were part of the Lincoln Adventurers hiking group. It was fall. Lorraine had never climbed a mountain before, so she made up her mind that the mountain she was going to climb for the first time was Washington, 6288. And she did it, and I think John saw a benchmark that he wanted to achieve or beat. So he said to me, "You took Lorraine up Mount Washington today. I want you to take me up Mount Washington." And I said, "You have 12 months to get yourself in condition, because I know about your tendency to go vagal. So I want you to exercise. We will not have Mary with us providing medical support. And I want a note from your doctor." And, well, I never got the note from the doctor. But John and I summited Washington. And there were 3 memorable things, one of which was the chili at the restaurant up on the summit of Washington, which is always fantastic. The second thing was the number of times I heard Shawn used to drive up to Pinkham Notch, run up Mount Washington, run down Mount Washington, and drive home all on the same day. 20 minutes later, Shawn used to drive from Lincoln. It was a high standard. The second thing was his persistence. Remember, I started talking about his persistence, perseverance. His focus was on getting to the summit of Washington, no matter how long it took, no matter how many times he stopped to take his pulse, because he didn't want himself to go vagal either. And he just kept plugging along. And I think that's what got John from Magnolia to Marburg to Lincoln, was that incredible sense of focus, his openness to new experiences. He was quite a guy, and I miss him.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share something? Just hold the phone and speak into it.
Barbara Slater. That was a very hard act to follow, Gus. But I would like to add to persistence a couple of other traits that I am aware of. My husband, Henry, late husband, and John were very good friends. John was a physicist, Henry was a biophysicist. I think they had a lot in common there. But Henry liked to fish, and he especially liked to fish on a long weekend in the spring at his camp way down in Maine. And he would always need someone other than me, I wouldn't have considered this, to go with him. And on several occasions, John was the invited guest who chose to join Henry on a fishing expedition in April, where they endured mud, damp, cold, black flies, endless hours out on the lake, and apparently just loved it. I thought that spoke to John's loyalty and his fortitude, because how could anybody put up with all that in one of those famous weekends in Maine when you're in your hat and your gauze and you're covered with black flies trying to get at you. So in addition to persistence, I would add loyalty and fortitude for John's traits.
Anyone else like to say something? Otis, come on up here. Say something. This is my son Otis. You want to hold the phone? You want to hold the phone? I'll hold the phone. Okay, say something.
I just wanted to visit JT
Any what? Okay, again, you visited him, yeah? And you said hello? You had a nice time? Good. Was he funny? Pretty funny, right? Yeah. Remember anything else about JT?
He used to go to the office.
You worked in an office.
All right.
I'm gonna hold your phone. You want to say something?
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, say give it to Julie.
Okay. There we go.
I don't think I'm going to be able to say it without crying. For me, I was always struck by all the obstacles that JT had from the moment he was a baby. I don't know if you all knew about the story of him having to be hospitalized his very first year of life and away from his parents. The hardships of growing up, the stories he told about working with his dad and the auto shop, his persistence, his marriage to Mary, a woman of color, a lot of hard things that could really harden a person. And I was just always so struck by the love and openness in John's eyes. He just really knew how to connect and take you in. And so I'm really, I didn't know him very long, and but I'm just so grateful to have experienced that. Yeah. That's it.
This Kate, by the way, is my wife.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting
Beautiful.
Yeah, good for good. The grass cutter guy started up. So we're going to do the ashes. Right? We're going to turn the ashes, and then we're going to close. Okay? Good. Okay. You want to do that with you? Sure. You know how this works? Have you opened it yet? Okay. I'm going to have a jackknife or something. You need
Your keys? Don't your keys have that knife on it?
I don't have a...
I have nails.
Oh, I have a key here.
I'll pick it off. I can pick it off.
I'll
slice it. Go ahead. Do you want to hold it? Yeah. Just...
Yep. All right. Yeah, you're off the shelf finally. There you go. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Can I see?
Come see, yeah. Come look. You want to look?
I kind of
You want to look?
Julie.
Yeah. Stash. They look like it's great. Very great.
I've never seen that.
It's a deep phone and it's weird actually. I'm never gonna see that wolf again.
thanks everybody for coming. So, well, I wish I wrote down all the great things that people liked and admired about John, you know. We all have our own, and maybe we could talk about some more as we get to the reception. Does everybody know where it is? And it's up at Barrel Farm, and you're welcome to the tent in the out back, and there's plenty of food and stuff like that.
So yeah, please join us
Please join us.
if you'd like to. We've got lots of food.
We got a lot of food. Yeah.
We might need to save it.
Yeah, we'll have to take it easy.
So thank you for coming, and I don't know, it's been a long time. You know, we died in January. You know?
I know it has been a while.
Yeah. I'm glad we finally got to do this.
Yeah.
Finally.
Trying to pick a time when everybody could get here. Of course, not everybody
Now
could,
still
but
everybody can get here.
okay.
Let's go to the time. Okay, well I guess we'll
I want to take pictures.